All right. Well, good evening, everybody. This is Yulia Houston. I'm in my office. There's something wrong with my camera, so I cannot turn it on for some reason. I might be able to figure out a little bit later. So welcome everybody to our webinar. This webinar is for senior parents, and webinar is on how to know whether or not your child applied to college yet. And the webinar is delivered on November 2nd for a reason. Yesterday was a big due date for many of our seniors who applied to colleges under early action or early decision or restrictive early action due dates. So that's why I would like for us to go over information to make sure that you will feel like you know what's going on and you can ask questions when you see your child this weekend at home, when you see your student this weekend at home. Last time when I delivered the webinar, we had lots of commotion with participants speaking while I was speaking. So I kindly ask everybody to mute themselves. And then at the end of my presentation, you'll be able to unmute yourself and ask me any questions. I would like not to use the chat feature simply because we spent the whole entire last year being on Zoom and being on chat. So I'd rather you ask me questions. However, if one of the parents would like to moderate chat, that would be great too, because then you can help me out. So let's begin. So this is the kind of the flow of our presentation today. My presentation will not be long, but it's by design. I want to make sure that we have plenty of questions at the end for me to answer any questions you might have. So I will share with you preliminary application statistics for the class of 2022, so you will kind of get a sense of where our students are applying. We're going to go over to-do list for all three of us, for the three parties involved, and it's the students and the parents and the CACs, and then talk about the upcoming due dates and upcoming process. So let's begin from looking at this screen. So this is a comparison between the class of 2022 and the class of 2021. Ironically, the number of students in both classes are the same, is the same. It's the 199 seniors. But as you can see right now, the class of 2022, they're telling us, this is not written in stone yet, but they're telling us they will submit a total of 2,549 applications, which is clearly much larger than the class of 2021. However, as I mentioned before, this is what they're telling us right now. It does not necessarily mean that our students...
We are coming over to come pick up the car, okay?
Okay, so I kindly ask people to...
I said, we are just driving over there right now. We'll be there in about 10 minutes.
Okay, would you please mute yourself, everybody?
You already closed?
They close at 6.
Oh, you close at 5. Can you just have somebody wait so we can come pay for it and pick up the car?
I tried unmuting you, but I can't. For some reason, it doesn't allow me.
Can't we are on our way right now. We'll get it right now.
Okay, please
let's wait for it. We'll be there shortly, okay? Okay.
Please kindly mute yourselves. Okay. All right, so as we're looking at those numbers, I mentioned before that the number 2,549 will not stay the same, because many students have an intention of applying to college only to realize at the end that they change their mind. But the numbers you can see are pretty similar. A little bit surprising at how fewer students are applying to colleges under restrictive early action plan. So those are the Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, University of Notre Dame colleges. So we have fewer students this year than last year. The early decision numbers look a little bit similar, although, very similar. So the number in parentheses with a plus sign means those are the students who told us that they will be applying to college under early decision 2 plan, which is usually due in December. And then the number of UI/UC applications, clearly more students in this class applied to UI/UC than last year. So they're just kind of a cute slide for us to start with. So here is our students' to-do list. Okay. So by now, I want to say probably 90% of our students wrote their common application essays, because 90% of our students, or more than that, applied to one college at the minimum by November 1 due date. So if you haven't read your students' common application essay, it would be great if you can ask your students to share it with you. So all of our students already completed list of activities on the common application as well. Many of them actually came and showed to us. So for instance, one of the requirements I have for my students is that I really ask them to come and share with me that list of activities. Some of them listen and some of them don't come, which, it's fine, because hopefully they're showing it to you or they're showing to somebody else who can make sense out of their activities. There's also a portion of the honors on the common application that needs to be completed, and students can report up to 10 activities and 5 honors. So it's completely up to them what to decide. So supplemental essays must be written. Teacher requests already been made, so teachers already send their letters of recommendations. Additional recommender, many of our students are reaching out to their SIR mentors or their internship advisors, or to anybody who knows them better outside of school for additional recommendation. So the SAT scores, we ask our students to report it on the Common App rather than paying $10 a college and sending it directly from the College Board, just because we don't want you to go broke right away at the beginning of the college application process. Now, so it's also on the students' to-do list, although it's more of a parent to-do list. So submitting CSS profile and FAFSA by Thanksgiving break, we're going to see that again on the parent to-do list. Interviews, let's talk about that a little bit. So last year, since everybody was on Zoom and everybody was online, colleges actually liked it a lot when it came to offering interviews, and colleges now prefer to offer interviews on Zoom. So many of our students already are receiving invites to schedule those Zoom interviews with colleges, which is great. And we told them that when an optional interview comes about, it should not be optional, it should be mandatory. So the last bullet point also you'll see in a second on your to-do list as a parent, but they need to, students really truly need to be on top of their college application process by doing 2 things. Number 1, they need to create an account on every single college's website that is on their college list, because this is where colleges will post their admission decisions. This is also where colleges will let our students know what's missing, if anything is missing from their application file. And then start looking for non-college specific scholarships. Yesterday, we delivered the first webinar in that series. This is a series of two webinars, college specific scholarships and non-college specific scholarships. So the non-college specific scholarship webinar is still yet to come. All right, this is the parent to-do list. So many things are similar to your students. By now, hopefully, and I'm really hope all of you know your EFC, which means expected family contribution, which probably means the number of dollars, the amount of money that you will be asked to pay when your student will enroll in a college. Clearly, you need to pay for your student's college application. So remember, it's about $50 a college. So we always encourage our students not to go crazy and not to break your bank prior to their attendance of a college, but nevertheless. However, some colleges do offer free college applications, so make sure that your student takes advantage of that if such an option available. If a college on your student list requires a student to send scores directly from a college board, you have to pay $10 a college to send that test to your to the schools on your students list. Submitting CSS profile in FAFSA becomes sort of a part of your responsibility too, because it has 2 parts, a student part and a parent part. So make sure that you do that with your student. I mentioned before, make sure that you ask for a copy of your student common application. You will be pleasantly surprised, I think, when you will be reading many wonderful stories that at least my students shared with me. So make sure that you do that. Make sure that you also remind your student that your student must be committed to every single college on your list, on his or her list, simply because if at the end, this one particular school will be the most affordable one, and you will be rooting for that school, we want to make sure that your student doesn't feel like, well, I don't want to attend that school. That sounds stupid. So make sure that every single college your student put on his or her list, that your student is genuinely interested in attending. Financial aid webinars, I already mentioned. Financial aid scholarship webinars, make sure that you take invitation, you either participate live, or you can always view them after they're posted on the CAC website. Make sure that you also don't hesitate to communicate with us, your CACs. And remember, we are your students' biggest fans after you, so make sure that you don't hesitate and send us emails. Something that needs to be done, be on top of the scholarship process. And most importantly, which is the very last bullet point, which is super important, make sure that you regularly check your student's Naviance account to see what my office did on your student's behalf. Remember, Naviance tells you what we send to colleges. Naviance does not tell you whether or not your student applied. Okay, so here is what I'm referring to when I said Naviance account. So every single parent has access to your student place on Naviance, to your student portal on Naviance. And as you can see here, if you see it says office materials, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 column from the left. And it says initial materials submitted. That means my office sent all documents on your student's behalf to a particular college or university. So here's what your conversation should sound like. You're gonna log on into your Naviance student account tonight. You're gonna see that our office already sent all the documents. Let's just pick a college, let's say Case Western Reserve University. And then this weekend, you can turn to your student and say, well, it looks like Yulia, or if I am not your student's CAC, that's fine, Sue or Kara, already sent their documents to Case Western Reserve University. Where are you in that process? So that's what the Naviance is designed to do. It's designed to tell you what we did, and it's also designed to remind students and parents what needs to be done. We are always ahead of your students, which is a great thing. So you can always use us as a reminder to your students. So make sure that you do that tonight. Okay, so this is what we are doing. So we already organized students by their due dates, and if not, they're coming back. Like for instance, I just met today with one of my seniors where she's falling a little bit behind. So we will reorganize her whole personal calendar around brand new due dates. We already helped select teacher recommenders, so we already done that. We already read, critiqued, and edited most of your students' common applications. So now we're going to be doing some supplemental essays for regular decision due dates. We helped your students organize their activities. We always ready and eager to help them prepare for the interviews. However, for that, your student needs to be physically present in our office. We just finished writing comprehensive letters of recommendations for every single senior in our class to make sure that everything is mailed is mailed on time. Well, it's not mailed, it's emailed. I'm still use the mail word, but really truly Naviance is the electronic. Naviance allows us to submit everything electronically. We will be more than happy and eager to evaluate your students' financial aid packets in April. So by April 1, every single senior will hear from their colleges in terms of their admission decisions, but also will receive the financial aid offer. So make sure that you take our invitation and then come and see us or email us or call us. We'll be more than happy to do that. And we also will be more than happy to discuss your student matriculation decision, which he or she must make by May 1. So this is all upcoming in the second semester yet. So here are the upcoming due dates for you to keep in mind. Well, it's not necessarily due dates, but some benchmarks. So all admission decisions for early schools, most of them, if not all of them, which means your student applied to a college by November 1, will be available between December 15 and December 5th and December 15th. An exception to that rule is University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Even though all 163 IMSA seniors applied to UIUC on October 15th, unfortunately, UIUC will not release their decisions until, I believe it's the first week of February. That's how they do it, and there's nothing we can do about it. However, the rest of the schools, if your student applied to a college by November 1 due date, your student definitely will hear from that school between December 5th and December 15th. If your student is applying to a regular decision, rolling, a college that has a rolling application due date, let's just use University of Illinois in Chicago or Iowa State University or Michigan State University. So usually your student will hear back about 3 weeks after he or she submitted application. So it's pretty soon. The CAC office will send every single piece of material that is still pending for regular decision due dates, which means colleges with January due dates, by December 21st. We will not go on break with any of your students' decisions still being in queues in your CAC's Naviance folders. I want to make sure of that. I also want to make sure that you know that right around January 15th, I will be sending first semester grades for every single senior in our class to all common application schools, because that's a rule and we must comply with the rule. We will be sending it also to MIT. MIT does not use common application. We'll be sending it to Georgetown University that also does not use common application, and all military academies. We will not be sending first semester grades to any other schools because schools simply do not have a way of processing it. So regardless of how much you would like for me to send your students first semester grades to University of Urbana-Champaign, I simply cannot do it. There's no vehicle to deliver those grades. But the first semester grades will be sent to all common application schools, MIT, Georgetown, and military academies. I already mentioned before, your student will hear back from every single college by April 1. And right around that time, by April 1, your student will get a financial aid packet. Then during month of April, colleges will host what is called Admitted Students Days. This is when it's really super important for you as parents to support your child, your student, in his or her desire to visit a particular college that is hosting that weekend, that college that admitted your student, and whose financial packet you really, really like. Unfortunately, IMSA spring break falls before April 1, unfortunately. So you will then need to excuse your student. But really, truly, it is almost a necessity for your student to visit that college now as an admitted student and now make the decision to enroll or not enroll. So this is going to all happen on April 1. And then on May 1, your student will be expected by a college to deposit to one university, and that's the university or college your student will attend in the fall. So that's what's coming up. Now we come to the most important slide, the slide for which you actually are participating in this webinar. And so how do you know whether or not your child applied to college? Well, first of all, ask your student. I mean, it sounds really kind of a plain and simple, but really, truly, some parents forget to do that. Number two, please check your credit card statement, because remember, every single college application costs money. Unless your student has a credit card that is not tied to your record, then you will never know whether or not he or she applied, because you will never see that charge. A Navient student account, students are allowed to change their status from application pending to application submitted by students. So if your student did that diligently, this is how you also know whether or not he or she applied. And then finally, there is a way for us, CACs, and students cannot see that, but we can. And you cannot see that as a parent, but we can. We can see whether or not your student completed a common application. Navient will not let us know if your student, let's say, applied to MIT, or if your student applied to Georgetown University, colleges that do not use common application. But if your student tells you that he or she applied to University of Chicago on November 1, we actually can see that. So please reach out to your CAC if you're interested to know, or if you didn't have a chance to talk to your student, or if your student is telling you one thing and it does not jive with your, let's say, your credit card records. So then we can definitely check and see. All right. So I think this is the end of my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to see if I can make my camera work. Hold on a second. Oh, hold on a second. Just a second. All right. Yeah, for some reason, I don't know why, but my camera is not working. So I don't know what the deal is. So I really apologize. More than anything, I really don't like when my students, especially last year when we spent so much time on Zoom, when my students will be looking at me from a black box, but now I have to do, there's something wrong with my camera and I can't really fix it. I don't know, it was working earlier today, so I don't know why it's not doing anything. All right, so please unmute yourself. And you're more than welcome to ask me any questions you have. Like I said, I'm really not interested in chat, but if one of you would like to volunteer and monitor the chat, I will be more than happy to answer your questions in chat. I mean, if one of you would monitor the chat, so then I can answer the questions. So are there any questions?
I have a question around the CSS form,
CSS profile, yes. Mhm.
CSS profile. I'm just trying to understand, do I need to create a College Board account to create that?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Our CSS profile is on the College Board. FAFSA is on fafsa.gov. Yes. You need to create an account on the College Board to fill out the CSS profile. Yes.
And does the student like the FAFSA? The FAFSA webinar was awesome, very helpful. I know we don't do one on
Excellent.
CSS. But both parts does the student also need to create a?
Yes, but the student should have a College Board account because your student already registered for SATs many times.
So they just need an account. They don't create an entry as well?
They already have one. Yep. Mhm.
Okay. All right. My other question, and sorry, I joined a second late.
No worries. What's the other question?
Sorry, my other question is around the transcript column in Naviance. If it's noted as requested,
Right.
is that a task for my student or is that a task for the CAC?
So that was the task for your student back in September. However, for now, so right now we're kind of past that task. So even if your student did not request, we probably already overrode that task. So all you need to pay attention to the column, it says initial materials submitted or pending.
Okay.
If you see anything pending, that means our office hasn't sent, we have not sent yet your student admission materials. But if you see initial materials submitted, that means we are all done.
Got it. Thank you.
You are very welcome. Any
Hi,
other
you-
questions?
Hi, Yulia. Just kind of along those lines, I think I know the answer, but on the U of I one, it shows, I think it still shows requested.
So that's a good thing that you're letting me know about that. So here's the deal about U of I. University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign is what it's called self-reporting school. They do not have a way to process a single piece of paper, which means our office never ever sends anything to U of I, not a transcript, not a letter recommendation, not a secondary school report, not a profile. It's all self-reported kind of application process where your student enters grades that your student earned in 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. So that column will forever be saying pending. Yes,
Yeah.
good point.
And
Good.
then, again, along those lines, one of the schools my son has is Texas A&M, and it
Now,
has.
Texas A&M is a different story. Texas A&M does not have a way of receiving anything electronically. So we need to mail everything, like physically put it in the post. So when we do that, then we make a notation on Naviance saying materials were mailed. If your
Okay.
student still has materials pending, that means your student did not apply early. Your student is applying as a regular student. And if it's not true, and if you absolutely are convinced your student should have applied by November 1, make sure that you reach out to Cara Molenhouse. She's going to double check.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. I really apologize one more time for my camera not working. I feel terrible, but I don't know. I cannot make it work for some reason. Something happened to it.
Julia, this is Bala. I have a question on the CSS profile.
Yes.
I don't really understand what is that CSS profile. Do we need to submit this in addition to FAFSA?
Right. So colleges, if you're applying for financial aid, if you're interested in applying for financial aid, if your student, interested in your student receiving financial aid, if a college requires CSS profile and you only will submit FAFSA, college will not issue your student financial aid offer. So let's just use an example of Northwestern University. Let's pretend for a second. So Northwestern University, let's do two examples. Loyola University, Northwestern University, or let's do University of Illinois Chicago and University of Chicago. That's a better example. So University of Illinois Chicago only requires FAFSA. So you do FAFSA, your student will get a financial aid offer if you qualify. University of Chicago requires FAFSA and requires CSS profile. So if you only will do FAFSA and never will complete CSS profile, your student will never receive a financial aid offer from the University of Chicago. Your student will receive a financial aid offer from University of Illinois in Chicago because you complied with the regulations. The difference between CSS profile and FAFSA is one, but it's very, very important one. FAFSA only looks at your current well-being, so to speak, financial well-being. So it's going to ask you, well, how many, did you file taxes last year? It's going to have access to your April of last year's filing taxes, because it has a direct access to, to the system that we use for filing taxes. It's going to ask you how much money you have in the bank. It's going to ask you how many students you have in college. So really straightforward. CSS profile is going to ask you for every single penny you have. So
Hey, Insa,
I
just
have
a
a,
reminder
hold on
to
a
come
second.
down to the art room for Alma Latina skull decorating in celebration of Dia de los Muertos. It's gonna be lit.
Okay. So if CSS profile is going to ask for, do you have any planes, trains, or automobiles? What kind of investments do you have? How about your retirement savings? So it's just going to look for every single penny. And that's what highly selective colleges and universities do, because they cost lots of money. So the difference in cost between University of Illinois Chicago is about $30,000 or 28 or 26, and the University of Chicago is 72. So clearly they want to make sure that you pay your fair share. But like I said before, so if your college requires a CSS profile and you're interested in financial aid offer, then you need to do it.
Okay,
Did I
so
answer
we
your
had,
question?
yeah, it did. Thank you. And so that means I had to go through the list of colleges and find out whether
Which
they
one?
need.
Well, so the
CSS or
colleges
not.
list that. So if you just download your students college list from Naviance, and then go on every college's website, it says there right away under financial aid offer, we require CSS profile, or we don't, or it's not going to say that. The rule of thumb usually is the more selective the school, the guaranteed chance it requires a CSS profile.
Hey, Julia, this
Thank
is
you.
Jigar Patel. Are there colleges and universities that require you to submit FAFSA or CSS by November 1st?
None of the colleges require you to submit a single financial aid document, not single one. However, in some colleges, submission of financial aid documents is tied to scholarships. And there's really no rule, or there's really no way of determining whether or not it's going to be the case. So talking to the financial aid officers there or for admission officers there would be helpful.
Okay.
But some colleges do use.
So if I understand your response correctly, some colleges do consider FAFSA or CSS for scholarship purposes if submitted by November 1st or October 30th.
So hold on a second. So I want to make sure that I didn't confuse anybody. November 1 is the due date for your students. Your students are supposed to apply to colleges if the college on your students list has a November 1 due date. All your financial aid documents must be completed by December 1. So clearly, if you've done it already, good for you. But if you haven't done it yet, you haven't missed on much yet. So don't feel like you've missed the whole entire due date process. Just make sure that you do it like right around Thanksgiving break.
Yep, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Hi, Yulia. What
Hello.
are those IDOC documents?
Where do you see that?
I think we submitted the CSS or something, and then then each college, they have their own IDOCs to be
This
completed.
is probably how they download their documents. So they have nothing to do with us or Naviance. It's probably the way they download their electronic documents.
I think that's not correct, Julia. I did for my son. We need to upload all the taxes and other documents to their end.
So you know better. Yeah, but it's not related to our work. So we do not have anything to do. We're not doing anything with IDOCs.
Yes, parents need to upload the.
Okay. So the parents, yeah, but not. I'm talking about we. By we, I mean my office.
Right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
So you need to upload the tax forms and
Yeah.
everything in addition to the CSS or FAFSA that you do?
Yeah, so CSS profile, once you submit, right, and then you will get an ID, and using that you need to log in And then we need to upload W2 and 1048, just all the tax document. So what they are doing, once we upload, they are processing the documents and then they are marking, okay, this college required this, you are done already. So like that, they will gonna either, if you need to do some more, they will ask questions, but yeah, we need to upload, bottom line, we need to upload all the tax document there.
Oh, so that's separate for each college, or is it
No,
one?
no, it
item?
is one time, once, some colleges asking some other information, but yeah, it is sometimes each college is having some different requirements.
Yeah, that's the reason. That's what we were confused. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Any other questions that I can answer?
I have one question. If one college is looking for a FAFSA to determine the financial aid or a scholarship, but if it's not eligible, then they're gonna look for the other document or CSS profile, or?
No, no, that's not how it works. So usually, so if a college requires FAFSA and CSS profile, they always go by the CSS profile.
Yeah, but if they go by only the FAFSA application?
No, so if college only requires FAFSA, then they only go by FAFSA.
So what they will see if my son is not eligible for that, so
Yeah,
what
so
they're
then-
gonna?
Yeah, so your EFC on FAFSA is always smaller than your EFC on the CSS profile. So if a college requires CSS profile, so for instance, Northwestern University is going to look at your EFC on CSS profile, which is always larger, higher.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, I have this question. Thanks for this information. This is helpful. What is your feedback or information about interviews when colleges ask you optional? You said it's go
Yes,
ahead
so
and
if
do
it's
it.
optional, we
Well-
tell our students it should not be optional. Yes. Mhm.
What kind of information are they looking for, or should the student convey to them? What, and are you preparing them for
So
those
yes, so
interviews?
send them to your student's CAC. So in your case is probably Miss Spilda. Yes. So you need to, your student needs to prepare opening remarks. So this is not a job interview, so it's a little bit different. So your student needs to come across as memorable. So I usually practice with my students, like 3 things that you want to emphasize in your interview. Your students should also have a very intelligent question to ask. So the question should not be, well, how many students attend your school, or how close are you to Philadelphia? I mean, you can find that on Google. So it should be very, very, so we do practice with our students. So make sure that you encourage your student to come and see us.
Awesome, thank you.
Of course. Also, I want to make sure, since you asked, it's impossible to fail an interview, and everybody needs to remember about that. It's one thing in the whole college application process that nobody can fail, because here's a little trick. So interviews are used to supplement information already in the student's file. However, an interview report, so notes that the interviewer will write on your student, can never be more important or less important than the application itself. So I'm going to give you a good example. So let's say your student is applying to Northwestern University, and let's just pretend for a second your Northwestern University loves your student, admission committee loves them. They open up, let's say, notes. In the notes say, well, I don't know, kind of a lukewarm student, didn't really do much. The impressions of the admission committee will overrule the impressions of the interviewer. Here's a flip-flop scenario. Your student is applying to Northwestern, and the admission committee is like, okay, kind of okay student. Interviewer just goes to the moon and back praising your student. And once again, unfortunately, the interviewer's notes will never, ever convey, overrule the admission committee. So the best possible case scenario always is admission committee loves your student, and the interviewer loves your student, and the admission committee becomes that much more set on the idea of admitting your student. So that's how interviews work.
Got it, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Julie, I did have a question. My child applied to the University of Chicago, and there was expected to be 2 letters of recommendation that were sent. And I noticed that one teacher had sent that letter of recommendation in and it was sent, and the other one is still as pending,
This
requested.
is pending
September
today. I
23rd.
just went over all of our students' file. Did you check today?
I did not check today. I
Okay.
checked last night, to be
Okay,
honest.
very good. So, so the November 1 due date applies to students and students only. We don't tell this to students, but I'm telling you this little secret. Simply because not every single high school is organized as IMSA is. So colleges usually give every single high school about 2 weeks, a grace period of 2 weeks to submit all supporting documents. Well, we never take that grace period because we don't need it, because we're also organized. However, on November 1, several teachers at IMSA were having difficulties submitting letter recommendations. I think I was answering emails last night until, I don't know, like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. So this morning I went over every single student's file to make sure that anything that was still in the queues was submitted. So right now we should be all set. And if you see something still in the queue, make sure that you contact your students' CAC, because the other glitch in the system that we've noticed is happening right now with Naviance is that our portal shows the real picture, whereas the student portal does not show the current picture, like the current status of the student application process. But we need to go by our portal because that's what really truly counts. Did I answer your question or concern?
Yes, thank you very much. That was very helpful. I was worried because yes, he
No,
kept.
there's no
saying
need to
November
worry.
1st.
So yesterday we had our senior class meeting and I sent notes, and I don't know how many of you read those notes, but a bullet point, one of the bullet points in that note, it says that the colleges will contact each student 3 times before they will decide that the application is incomplete. So it's almost impossible to fall through the cracks, impossible, because colleges will do every single thing in their power to make sure that the application is completed.
One question on the deadline. So is the central time zone we need to see, or it is in the Common App it is showing the Eastern time zone as the last hour? It's like, does that November 1st, 12 p.m. it is central, or it is?
So it's a November 1 at the place where your student is applying from. So it's not the location of the school, it's the location of your home.
Okay.
So November 1 midnight in Chicago applies to applying, let's say, to MIT, which is 1 hour ahead, which is already 1 o'clock there. But it's midnight in Chicago that what matters the most.
Yeah, Common App somehow flagging that you already passed the deadline. So just wondering whether
No,
we need
it's
to.
the deadline of the student's home address, not the university.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I apologize one more time for my camera is not working. I really, really apologize. I'm going to see if I can fix it tomorrow. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. How many times can a student edit the Common App?
So I think the answer in the past used to be 8. I'm not sure right now. So you should ask your student. That's an excellent question to ask. So I remember in 2019, before the COVID, number was 8. So I don't know if the Common App changed its policy.
Okay.
But if you, I'm sorry, if you edit it, will that reflect in the college you already submitted?
No. Means you can submit Common App 8 different times. Like you can have 8 different versions. Used to be in 2019. I'm not sure if it's still 8 or 6 or I don't know how many. No, it does not affect the colleges you already submitted. It only affects the colleges that you haven't sent your Common App to.
Okay. And I do have another question, Julia. In the self-reported grades, I think my son reported all the IMSA courses as honor level. Would that matter?
Yeah, so they're not honors. They're actually they're called college preparatory.
Right.
We told our students so many times to do it. That's okay. That's a minor mistake. The colleges are not going to be that particularly worried about that mistake. However, colleges do. So, like for instance, the example I gave, University of Urbana-Champaign, or University of California system, University of California, Berkeley, Los Angeles, you name it, also fall in the same category as University of Urbana-Champaign, which means we do not send a single piece of paper there.
Right, that's the issue.
Grades. So, but guess what happens when a student is admitted, and then a student tells, let's just say University of Urbana-Champaign or University of California, Los Angeles, I am coming. That college will do audit of the student's transcript that we'll send at that point, a final transcript, and compare the grades that student indicated on the application with the actual grades listed on the transcript. So every single self-reported college does grade auditing in June, every single one.
Okay, but will that affect the students' admission? Or
Yes,
like a
yes, yes. So if a student I'm just making this up. Well, actually it did happen one year. So a student just was not truthful in her reporting, and the college said, nope, thanks. It was at the end of June. Yep, it's terrible.
But this is actually down reporting. Okay.
What?
Like when you say you take honor level instead of college prep. you
Yeah, no,
actually
I'm
are
not talking
reporting-
about that. It was actually grades, actual grades. It wasn't the designation of classes. It was, let's say, if student said I got an A and the student got a C.
Okay,
It was
that,
actual
but
grades.
but this honor to
So
college
don't
prep
worry about
really
that.
doesn't
Don't
matter.
worry about that. Don't worry about that.
Okay, all right, good, thanks.
Any other questions?
Yes, Julia, I have a question here about Common App. Does a parent have access to it?
Well, if you ask your student to
Okay.
share the password, then you will have access. You do not need to have access to your student's Common App. What I would like for you all to do is to have to ask your student for a Common App essay to read. That's what I ask you all to do, because I think you will be I just want you to know how your student presented him or herself to colleges. I think you will be very, very interested in, it will be very interesting read. So your homework assignment, you have 2 homework assignments for tonight. Ask your student for a copy of the Common App, and number 2, log on into your student's Naviance account to see which documents were sent, to where, and whether or not anything is still pending on the Naviance.
Okay, and also do the student have to link the Naviance list?
That's all been done. Yes, that's all been done back in September. Yep. The Naviance and the Common App are in sync.
Common App.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You are very welcome. Any other questions? Well, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. So 33 parents, we have 199 seniors. I will be posting my webinar probably on Thursday morning. So then I'll send an email to all seniors, and all seniors will be able to log in and
Hey, Julia.
Yes, yes.
I'm sorry, just last question here maybe. So regarding CSS profile, I submitted the CSS profile from my student's account only. Do I have to submit it from my account?
Did you? No, you submitted from a student's account?
Uh-huh.
Yes. No, it's all fine. It's all fine.
Oh,
You're
okay,
fine.
great.
You're fine.
Okay, so I don't have to create another account.
No,
Okay,
you're
thank
fine.
you.
You're fine. You're fine.
Perfect.
All right. So I want to thank you very much. Like I said, this is absolutely my favorite webinar to deliver, just because I love our seniors so much. Have everybody wonderful good night. I apologize for my camera not working. I'm going to try to fix it tomorrow when I get back in the morning. So everybody have a wonderful good night. Make sure that you reach out to your students' CACs with any questions you have. Please do not hesitate. We are your students' biggest college fans. And I tell your students that every time I see them, and I want to make sure that you hear it from me. Thank you very, very much. Good night.
Thank
For
you.
your help. Thank you.
Good night.